Just because something was created outside of church doesn't mean we can't use it in the church. Doesn't make it evil. Now, some people
Yeah.
want to draw the line, right?
Yeah.
Right now, it's AI. It's evil. We're not going to use it. Okay, it's fine. It's your prerogative, right? Some denominations don't even want instruments in the church. That's your prerogative. That's how you want to worship. That's fine. So just because a marketing tactic or a marketing technique or marketing software was made outside the church does not mean that we cannot use it in the church. Because ultimately, that creative genius that innovated and created that is God-breathed.
Hey, what's going on, family? This is your boy DK Hammonds with the Social Media Church and DK Consults, and I am here with one of the greatest minds in website development, Justin Nava, y'all.
What's going on? I don't have the greatest mind. I appreciate you saying that. I tell people all the time, if I had the greatest mind, I'd still be doing this stuff myself. I eventually was like, I'm just a dummy. I need to go find the smart people
Yeah,
that have those expertise but don't want to deal with people. And it's like, I'll deal with people. You just design it and develop it and make it good and secure it, and I'll just deal with the people. And that's my favorite part of the job. But I appreciate
absolutely.
you saying that. For sure, our organization, Nava Church Marketing, we want to be the go-to. I don't want to say guru. I don't like that word, but the go-to, just your go-to guy. Like
Yeah,
that's who
man.
we want to be. I appreciate you having me here, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. One of the things that, if y'all don't know, Justin is like, for me, I tell him, I just told him a moment ago that my team took one of his sheets and we use that as a template to create websites for other clients. Now, we understand that websites are pretty much standard in some ways, but then they can get customized as you would like them to be. But I use that sheet, and I've always wanted to, just thank him for that, because that was a really dope article that I use, even though, whatever the case may be, I use that article a great deal. But that's not, we'll get back to website development because I think he's passionate about that, and I want to cover that. But what I want to talk about is geofencing. Now, Justin and I both saw a reel that came out from a pastor that was in North Carolina. And in particular, and I give you the skinny of the short, we'll put it in the short notes. In particular, his church was in a space where his church was geofenced with another church, and that church was trying to use that to, facilitate or navigate people from one space to the next. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything because they have not done anything illegal per se. Justin, some of my people don't even understand the importance of geofencing and its impact. Help us, walk us through it in your layman's term and how that impacts brand business as well as church and faith-based communities.
Sure. Well, geofencing is a tool. And like with any tool, you can use it for good or you can use it for, I wouldn't say bad, but less than ethical resources means. A hammer can be a good thing or it can be something very bad if you hit your thumb or worse. So geofencing itself is not bad. This is not a time to talk about the tool itself, the method, the strategy itself being bad, but really how it's used. And I read an article about it first, which then there was also a reel from the pastor direct. So not much information has changed. And I don't want to point fingers. A lot of people are like, you're just trying to tear him down. You're trying to, I get that, man. Like if you watch the videos that I made, I specifically said the evidence that we have presented to us here, the evidence that I'm seeing, what I'm reading, what I'm checking with the abilities. I'm not a journalist. I don't want to be a journalist. This is not me trying to capitalize on outrage journalism that's everywhere in 2024.
For real.
This is me seeing a story that happened and using that to say, all right, number one, this is what we need to be aware of, not just church against church, but anything of the world against the church. But then also, okay, so this happened, but how can we point people to Jesus because of it? And
Absolutely.
if anything, I want this to raise awareness, not against what a church has done, but okay, if it's happening against the church, how can we use this then to then minister and reach other people? And it really has done a good job for us to open up that discussion and say, we don't want to target other churches, but we want to target hurting areas.
Yeah, man.
And so that's essentially what we've seen here. Now, did you want me to go into like what geofencing or geotargeting specifically is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because some people, because here's the thing. So I put a post up about that on my social media platform, and a lot of people weren't aware of geofencing and what we're using it for, right?
Mhm.
And so I knew that because I've seen geofencing being used when it comes to the area of startups. We use it for startups
Yeah.
to focus our vision or our whatever we want to get to these people in that particular area. And that's who we want to market to. So break it down for some people who don't understand geofencing and then how and then its impacts, both negative and positive in your opinion.
Yeah, so you'll hear us say geofencing or geotargeting. They're almost the same.
Yep.
Geofencing is a little bit more of an older term, and it's a very hyper localized term that actually came out of my understanding. It came out of the IT space,
Mhm.
meaning there's like imagine a digital fence around an area. For
Yep.
geofencing, usually we're talking about a building. So
Yes.
it's almost like those invisible dog fences, right? You put a
Exactly.
collar on your dog, you put some stakes out in the yard, and when it crosses that invisible line between two stakes, it beeps or it buzzes or God forbid it shocks them a little bit and they learn to stay in the yard. Okay.
Absolutely. That's
We're
it.
not going to shock you or beep you or buzz you here, but
Yeah.
there is a digital fence like for example, on your Wi-Fi network, wherever your Wi-Fi network can reach, if someone walks into that or a Bluetooth area, they can detect who has entered into that
That's
area.
correct.
It's
That's
that
correct.
not
Mhm.
geological, but geographic area, right? So if I walk past a store and they have a Bluetooth thing, I walk past their geo fence and they say, "Oh, this a new person has just walked into the door. We're gonna tag them with all the big data that we have, whatever." So that's geofencing. Geotargeting is essentially the same thing. It's more about just plopping an area, picking a mile radius, 5 mile radius, quarter-mile radius. We're gonna say we're gonna geo target the area.
Yep.
And the way it works in digital marketing or communications, if you want to be churchy PC about it,
Yep.
is we are going to draw a line, a radius, a circle, zip code, whatever it is, and we're only going to show our message in that location.
Mhm.
So when we talk about geofencing or geotargeting, for example, I can take a zip code 76542. I think that's one of my old zip codes. Good luck trying to you almost got me. You can say we want to geofence that area and I will pay Facebook 20, $30 to say, show my ad
Yep.
to people in that area.
Yep.
And that way I know my ad is only hitting the people in that zip code around Temple, Texas. Okay.
Yep.
So that's geofencing, geotargeting. Now you can get extremely granular. And you
Yes.
know this as well as I do in the startup world.
Absolutely.
If you got a new piece of tech coming, maybe you geo-target the local tech conference a few states away
Correct.
promoting your new app because
Correct.
people in the tech world are going to be there. They got money. I want to show my ad to them. So you're going to geofence the expo center
Yep.
and just show your ad to that population during a set time, which is when the event is happening.
Absolutely. That's
So
right.
that's what geofencing is. It's selecting a specific physical location, and then marketing wise, you put certain dollars to say, show my ad in the Facebook newsfeed, Instagram feed, Google search results, TikToks when people are scrolling by, or reels or shorts. Show my ad to people in that area.
Yep.
So that's in short what geofencing is, or geotargeting, where I drop a pin on a church and say anyone within a quarter mile, show them my ad. Here's some money to do that. So
Absolutely.
that's essentially what geofencing or geotargeting is.
Yeah, and so in the startup world, we would use this, as he mentioned, we would use this for marketing per se, and we would also use it for testing to see if we can find anybody who wanted to test our product in a particular area, so that they could be, brand ambassadors or they can be actual A/B testers, etc. That's why we would use that, and that's why people are using it. But it's unique now that those same things that we use in the startup world that they continue to use in big tech and small tech and big data, now it's kind of making its way into the church space. And so now we're starting to see churches use some of these same, I wouldn't say tactics, but same techniques. Same
I would say
technique.
tactics, but yeah.
Tactics. All right, cool. We'll say
You're
tactics.
gonna fit me.
Yes,
Tactics are just things you do. That's
that's
it.
it. Some of these same tactics that we use in the startup world, and they're starting to use them in church. And because I feel like a lot of them don't have the education to use them, they're just simply putting the money behind the actual system and saying, "Hey, system, just go for what you know, and then whatever results we'll get, we just get those results, and we're okay with that." So, has that been your similar experience where people are doing similar and just trying to throw the money behind it and see what they come up with, or are people actually having a digital plan, a digital marketing plan to actually infiltrate and make an impact in the kingdom of for the kingdom of God's sake? What's your take on that, bro?
No, the church world, it's definitely let's just throw some stuff on the wall and see what sticks. Is the spaghetti done? I don't know. Let's throw it on a cabinet,
Yeah.
see if it sticks. And if it doesn't stick, well, the problem is churches don't know exactly when it's done or when it's not done. And it's not all to blame on the church, right? I mean, let's be honest, though God has gifted every person to do something great with their lives. And some people choose to do it for the church. Many people don't. They choose to do it for their own worldly endeavors, trying to do good in their own way or just trying to make some money or whatever it is. There is innovation everywhere. And just because
Absolutely.
something is innovated outside of the church, I want to be clear on this, doesn't necessarily make it evil. Okay.
That's right.
Someone, I don't know the history of it, but someone invented air conditioning and a pastor said, I want that in my chapel. I
That's
don't know
right.
why he's from the South, but that's where
He
it
was
was from.
definitely in Texas when Henderson said that.
It's like I tell my daughter we're in the Houston area, and I was like, 100 years ago, none of this was around here. And she goes, "What happened?" And I was like, "AC was invented, and
That's
then
right.
everyone wanted to come to Houston." So there weren't really big cities in the South till the AC. But that doesn't mean just because something is innovated outside the church, right? Microphones, the things we use, the way even the clothes we wear, the 3-piece suit, that was not invented in the church. We should be wearing choir robes and what do they call the
Cossacks.
there you go. And so, hey, we have that in the church and we can use that. But if you decide not to use it, it doesn't mean it's inherently evil. It's just God has gifted everyone to be creative. I mean, that's what's unique about us. I think personally, the God breathedness of us is our ability to create something. No one else or nothing else is creating. So just because something was created outside of church doesn't mean we can't use it in the church. Doesn't make it evil. Now, some people
Yeah.
want to draw the line, right?
Yeah.
Right now, it's AI. It's evil. We're not going to use it. Okay, it's fine. It's your prerogative, right? Some denominations don't even want instruments in the church. That's your prerogative. That's how you want to worship. That's how you want to do. That's fine. So just because a marketing tactic or a marketing technique or marketing software was made outside the church does not mean that we cannot use it in the church. Because ultimately, that creative genius that innovated and created that is God breathed. But
That's right,
now,
man.
again, it's a tool. Whether you use it for good or evil, ethical, non-ethical, that's our freedom that we have for good or for worse.
Absolutely.
So what most churches see is possibility, but they don't know how to do it. They haven't gotten the driver's permit. They haven't taken the driver's test. They just get behind the wheel and go. And sometimes that might get you to A to B. Many times it doesn't. Not all the fault lies on pastors and church leaders, though, because they are well meaning. A lot of the fault also lies with software companies who say it's as easy as ABC. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's as easy as logging in, watching this video, paying the subscription fee, and clicking the. It ain't ever that easy.
Ever.
The church go is probably the closest. but
It's never
but
that
many
easy.
places, you still have to know what to say. You still have to know what to write. You still have to know the graphic to make. No matter what Canva template you use, you change one color, you know as well as I do. Yeah, that one color ain't gonna look good on that design, even
It's
though it
not.
looked great on the window, right? It's like like when you pass the shirt or the dress or whatever in the window, and you're like, man, it looked really good on the mannequin. It don't really look good on me.
Nope.
So it's not all on the church's fault for just like seeing the promise be over delivered and over communicated, and then it doesn't work out.
Yes.
So yeah, I see a lot of churches that see the possibility and they see what big business is doing, right? That's where everyone's attention is.
Yep.
It's on social, it's on the ads. People are giving more money to businesses and e-commerce than they are to the church. I'm not saying that's a bad thing,
Nope.
but they're certainly not when they're not given 1, 2% of anything cheerfully, but instead they'll go out and go buy, another drink, another meal, another movie, another they'll support a politician. They're all seeking to support things they think will fulfill them
Yep.
or create kingdom on earth when you and I both know what will be. So churches see what others are doing and they say, how can I get a piece of that action? How can I get some of that attention back on us for the kingdom? And they go out and they try to do it. They just don't know exactly what to do, how to do, when to do it. And for me, how to communicate the right message in the right way using that tool. So
Yeah.
long walk to a short drink of water. You'll notice I like to take those long walks. I see a lot of churches have the will. They don't have the way. They don't have the knowledge. They're ready to get behind a car because they said, oh, you just press this pedal to go and this pedal to stop. Ain't that easy. I almost flipped our car the first time because I didn't realize you had to turn your wheel 10% of the way to actually make a 90-degree turn. I thought you just,
No.
yeah, that old 1996 Dodge Ram almost
Come on.
went to almost flipped over.
Yeah, I think it's important, man, as people, as we're starting to really introduce a lot of these tech ideas that were once pre-existing into the tech space, into church, it's important that you have somebody like Justin or myself who can kind of lead you to using the right tools. Some of these tools aren't necessary for you to use. if you're trying to use geo-fencing or geo-targeting, you're using this in an effort to think of it like this. I'm using this because I don't want to walk to evangelize. So I'm going to use an application like a Facebook ads or a Google ads to kind of get that information out there, and I don't have to do that. Will it cost you? In most cases, it will cost you. It would also cost you because you don't know how to use it or work it to target it into your specific place. So those things are hyper important when it comes to the fencing, when it comes to the targeting, is that you have to understand who you're trying to reach, who you're trying to not reach, who you're trying to gather and bring into your space, because those are the people that you want to be putting ad dollars behind. Now, now I hadn't found one product outside of Google Ads, and even Google Ads has to have a nonprofit thing that you have to fill out. I hadn't found one product anywhere else that's free. So what we're talking about is usually a paid for feature. This is not something that you can just pull up in Facebook and instantly start sending ads out. It's not going to work for you that way. You're going to have to put some financing behind it. But I think what's important is intention. Who am I intending to follow or reach or, gather or want to be in community with? Those things are hyper important when it comes to the targeting. At least when it came to app building and app creation and building businesses, what I found out is you can throw out a broader net there because you're looking for customer acquisition. Now the question is what is membership acquisition? Nobody can really answer that question for us because it's going to be different per church. But there is a cost that it costs you to gain a member. What is that cost? How are you trying to, get there? So I think that's super important. And so when I watch this video of this pastor, again, you can go watch the YouTube yourself, come up with your own conclusions. It's not me. I'm just bringing up for a conversation. But this pastor was not necessarily grieved, but he didn't understand fully what was happening and why was it happening. And let me also say this: I don't think that church possibly did that intentionally. I think they had somebody behind the scenes who turned on the machine, put that stuff where it needed to go, and kept it moving. We don't know their intention. What we do know is that somebody possibly made a mistake. And what are some ways, Justin, that people can avoid said mistake if they're doing geofencing and geo-targeting, in your opinion?
I love it. I'm gonna circle back to one thing you said.
Go for it, bro.
We need to know our cost per member. That's a
Woo.
huge thing, and maybe we button that somewhere else
Oh,
because
man.
it's incredibly awkward. I brought it up in a video yesterday or Monday, and I was like,
Really?
"Look," I said, "This is these live streams. I don't know what I say. I just but it's content." I sent it to Jose. And I gotta be careful because I got a Jose and a Jose. I'm like, I don't know, just make a video. Here you go. Here's 3 hours of me talking, and he'll
Right.
find it, or Cast Magic will find it and he'll pull it and edit.
That's it.
So everyone, whether you know it or not, you have a cost per member. Now, Nelson Searcy, in a book that I keep loaning out and I never get back. I think I'm going to buy my 4th copy soon. I think in his book, it's $400 to $500 per new member, per new covenant relationship, per new whatever. That's not per new attendee. That's not per first time guest. That's not to get someone at your event. That is someone joining your church. All right. Talking about geofencing, geo-targeting. We ran a geo-targeting campaign last month, over the last 30 days, we had 12 families visit the church, 3 families join, 1 through baptism. So
That's good.
again, you got to look at $600 or 3 new members, 1 with a baptism. Which would you rather have as a church? Okay. Now we got that. I think Nelson's number's a little outdated because I don't know when that book was written, but
Absolutely.
I think now we're seeing about $200 to $300 per new member. And
That's fair.
that is not me to say you want to get 20 new people. Well, you got to spend X amount of dollars. That's not necessarily the case. It is. Let's look at your budget. Would you rather have $600 or would you rather have 3 new families or 3 new members joining? Hopefully they're bringing their family.
That's right.
That's just a different way to say it. When you're talking about marketing budget, if you know that number, it becomes much more easy to
Correct.
see if you're being a good steward or not.
Yes.
And so one of the things that geofencing and geotargeting lets you do is it lets you spend your dollars to the people you're specifically ready to reach. So For example, my dad lives in a neighborhood that is nowhere near a school. It is both a good thing for him since he's retirement age. You don't have to worry about kids going up and down the street. It's also kind of not a great thing because there's also a certain kind of person that can only live in a neighborhood like that.
Yeah.
And so it's both a cutting edge sword. But if I was a church coming in and I wanted to serve families, I would not need to spend marketing dollars reaching that neighborhood because that neighborhood doesn't have many families. It's a
That's
lot
right.
of studio homes,
Mhm.
2-bedroom max, right?
Yep.
So again, if I went mailer route, well, I got to hit the whole zip code. I got to hit the whole route or whatever, which could include his thing. And when he gets a letter that says your family's welcome, and he's like, my family don't live with me anymore, in the trash, that was a waste of 8 or 9 cents.
That's right.
Multiply that by the 700 houses in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
Again, was that good stewardship? That's something
Correct.
between you and where you believe God is leading you.
That's right.
So if I could geo target and say, I want to hit not that area, but maybe the area on the other side of the church, just serve this area with ads about the family. And then maybe the area that I'm talking about, let's promote in this quarter-mile radius our singles ministry, our addiction ministry, our just older youth ministry, the senior
Yeah.
ministry,
Yeah.
right? So imagine you could just plop down a point on a map and say anyone within a quarter mile or however large the neighborhood is. We know what kind of person is in that neighborhood because we know what those houses cost. We can walk up and down those streets and we know what's affecting those people. Safety and security doesn't affect this neighborhood because it's gated, but it does affect this neighborhood because it's right on the railroad tracks. And it
Yeah.
makes it very simple to steal my wife's bike back in 2018. So security is an issue here.
Mhm.
All right. So, you can, as detailed and as imaginative as you want, plop down points on a map and give Facebook $100 or $200 and say, I want to reach this person in this area with this message. Now, the message is where people
That's
often
it, brother.
go
Come on.
astray. Okay.
Yep.
So, knowing that, I think if you knew your cost per member, you could bring that number significantly down just by knowing where you're going to target, how you're going to target them, and what you're going to say to them. Knowing that alone, you can spend more time speaking to someone where they are, literally in life, because the message is only going to appear. I don't got to go to the library and start just talking to random. Hey, do you have kids? Well, now I'd love to invite you to VBS. Hey, do you have kids? No. Okay. Well, do you have grandkids? No. Okay. Well, I was going to invite you to VBS, but okay. See you later.
Right.
You don't got to do that anymore. Like you said, it's a matter of scaling. Now,
Yes.
does that mean we shouldn't do door-to-door ministries? We shouldn't have house meetings, prayers back here? No, absolutely not.
Still should do it.
Not an
Yep.
either or. It's an and. Okay.
Yeah.
So knowing that cost per member, knowing that cost per getting someone in the door, cost per visit, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
If you take it more granular than that, again, these were things that were probably innovated in the business world: cost per lead, cost per
Oh, no doubt.
acquisition, churn rate. Okay.
That's
But if we
correct.
can take that idea,
Yeah.
the same way we take marketing psychology, the same way we take just the comforts of padded chairs, padded pews, speakers, microphones to amplify the message, to make it easier to receive that message, right? We can take those things and bring them back into the church.
Yep.
And glorify God with them. I say, let's do it. Right. I don't, unfortunately, I love, if you study history, American history, the church invented school. The church, that's why it's called Sunday school, because kids weren't being taught to read because they were being taught to go to a manufacturing job. The church stood up and said, let's create school. And then the government was like, I think it was Maryland first to do that. Mason, I think the guy's name was. He was like, well, we can just do that for them, and we don't have to. And then of course the whole Rockwell thing, if you want to get into that.
Absolutely.
Now, you talked about unintentional uses of those things. As with anything, there is a
Yes.
learning curve to ministry. There is a learning curve for ministry. The number of times people have had to tell someone else, like, hey, youth, let's put you in a leadership role. And then the youth comes down and you're like, you can't say that from the pulpit. You can't, whatever it is, right? Like, you can't say that word. You can't do it. Like, there's a learning experience across all ministry. As many podcasts as I've done, there's still words that I don't mean to be offensive with, but apparently they're offensive. And I have to say, dude, I had no idea. I'm never going to say that. Let me re-record it for you. Like, I will do that for you because I don't want to be an obstacle to someone hearing my message. That said, there can be unintentional use cases. And I 100% believe that someone came in and said, we have a new church we want to grow this church. To grow the church, we need money. So let's find people that have money. And probably in an ad campaign that had 5 different campaigns in, or 5 different ad sets, 5 different objectives, goals, targetings, or whatever. One of them was, why don't we just go to target people that are already giving to a church, and maybe they'll like our church.
Yeah.
And again, we plant church. And again, benefit of the doubt, we plant churches to reach a group of people that the current churches are not reaching.
That's
We
right.
don't just plant churches. We've explored all the land. Okay. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, at this point, it's this community is not being served by the churches there. And it's not a fault of them. It's just the people that God has brought to this area. Now he's calling us to that area to plant a church, to reach people in a new way that no other church can. And maybe if I was the marketing guy, I could imagine thinking, well, maybe there's people in an existing church and God's calling them to another church. They call them to our, and they need to know about our church. Well, how do we reach that person? Well, let's run an ad to this church area, and let's just say, hey, we got a new church in town. And I've had people tell me, I think I had comments too. If it's a good church, people won't leave.
That's not true.
Yeah, 100%. There might be, like, for example, me, if I saw that ad and I'm 100% happy with my church, I'm not going, I'm not leaving. That's fine.
Right.
But there are some people who can be called away, distracted, led away with, hey, we got the city's biggest slide in our kids ministry. Yeah. Oh, that sounds cool. And then kids crying, I don't want to go to church. I want to go. Okay, well, this one you want to go on the big slide, buddy? Yeah, let's go to that big. And you go over there, and God willing, it's a good gospel-centered church that's going to preach the truth. That's not always the case. Okay.
Yes,
so
absolutely
100%. If it's a good church and people are wise and up on it and supportive, yeah, that ad's not going to work on them. It might though. And this is where it comes to like unintentional, unethical use of some of these tools. Yeah. That is something that just needs to be learned. And that's, again, one of the things that, I don't want to call this story out to point fingers and talk down on someone. I never once said that this is a wolves in sheep's clothing. I will say that's a false prophet. Don't go to that church. Don't listen to that pastor. Don't whatever. I will say that. I never said that about this church because I do believe, at least I want to believe, that this was done unintentional. It was just one person making a campaign decision. That was probably one of many.
Yes.
With the higher budget that they probably got to plant this church.
Absolutely.
But it is something to be aware of, that this is happening. And I think it's a very good thing that someone got mad. I don't know, man. You can't read that stuff over messages, but someone was also upset that I was like, this happened 5 years ago, dude. I'm like, yeah, but the pastor just shared it last week.
Come on.
And I think very wisely, he waited until he was at a point where he could share it stoically, so that the message is front and center, not the emotion.
That is,
and I applaud him for that, because I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, I got behind when I watched the video, his heart. Me and my wife both listened to it. His heart about it. It felt like, hey, I was focused on the work, and this just kind of came up, and I wasn't being disrespectful, but I just wanted to bring some awareness to the conversation. I think even when we're dealing with life and ministry, there's nothing wrong with bringing awareness to something that you need awareness to. You absolutely need to have a conversation, not to be disrespectful, but to simply say, hey man, did you notice, or were you involved in this in any kind of way, so we can walk together? Because the Bible clearly states that if we are offended, we should go to one another, because the whole attempt is to walk together at the end. So if that be true, his intent was not to be disruptive, because again, that was 5 years ago. He could have been disruptive 5 years ago. His intent was to convey a story that impacted him in such a way. And I get behind that. And I even get behind the church that's over around the corner, whatever the church name is, whatever the case may be, that's around the corner, that put up the ads because they're trying to generate members. I don't get behind some of the language that was said and put into that. That part, I'm like, as a digital marketer, as an owner, I would be annoyed by that, because you intentionally said, these are the types of people that you're trying to target, right?
Yeah.
And that part.
And again, because it was, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say worker bee, but it doesn't describe the value that this person could bring. It
was an operator.
It's like I tell people, like, just because you run the soundboard doesn't mean you're a button monkey. You're an integral part of worship. You're a worship leader.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I don't want to demean this. I don't want to demean this person. But again, because they were, again, one on a team that probably set up one campaign of many that said, well, who's already tithe? That's a very, I can put those dots together to form an action.
Yep.
And from the reel the pastor put out and said, like, well, once the pastor realized that this was happening, he stood up and excused himself. I would hope that means, like, yeah, we put a stop to it. I hope there wasn't someone above him that said, no, this is how
Yeah.
we deal. I mean, I could imagine that, but again, I don't want to assume that.
Yeah.
So again, it's one of those things where it's like, I've been in finance committees where the pastor says, why are you giving us raises and you're cutting out ministry? You're giving everyone a 10% raise, which is just, it's due, because we hadn't had raises in like 4 years at this church.
Yeah.
But by cutting ministry, like, we didn't touch co-op, but we decreased everyone's budget except for the children's ministry, I think. And he was like, we are not like, yeah, 100% we deserve raises, but we're not going to do it at the expense of ministry. We're not going to
That's
pay
right.
salary. We're not going to increase salary by 22,000 or whatever the
Mhm.
number was, and cut ministry expense by 22,000.
Absolutely.
And again, if I was an accountant, a numbers guy, and I'm looking at spreadsheets and I'm like, this is my job to find raises, and you're not giving me an increase in the budget based on forecasts and all that, whatever. God bless him. I can imagine him faithfully trying to make that decision. And then the pastor has to come in as the head and the shepherd, say, that ain't going to fly.
That's right.
So I don't think every mistake can be avoided. I think it needs to be things like this you need to be accountable for. Obviously, having some kind of hierarchy. If one person is in charge of like, one of the things that we do is when we get your Google grant, immediately one of the first things we do is we add you as an administrator, the
Yes.
pastor, church leader, point of contact, whatever. So we're not the only ones in the account.
Absolutely.
We don't publish anything on behalf of your church without you at least laying eyes on it. We have 2 levels of approval. The first one is, this doesn't happen until you reply, I approve. The second one is, you have 48 hours and we're going to go and push this ahead. And usually the 48-hour one is, yeah, you already know what we're doing. We've done it before. We're just doing it again. Okay, great. But if it's like, we're launching a website, you need to look at it. We are, oh, hold on a sec. I got something popping up on the other one is, hey, this is another VBS campaign like the one we did last year. We're just gonna go ahead and launch it because we know what you're doing. We've done the same Lifeway. Everyone's doing this Lifeway thing. Okay, great. Anyways, so to avoid mistakes, number one, you got to go 2 by 2. Social media accounts, Google administration, email administration. Even if you're using Pastor Joe at gmail.com, another elder needs to be on that account. Okay. Anything digitally you do, and we got this from our friend Jeff Reed, anything that you do digitally, you need to go 2 by 2. Just like Jesus sent the disciples out 2 by 2, anything we do in the digital world needs to be 2 by 2. So your everything, logins, and then as well as any campaigns you try, any flyers you produce, any posters you put out, any social media posts. And I know I'm asking a lot here, but it's worth it. I know a lot of churches that will just let someone just run with the Facebook account, but they will not publish that bulletin until it gets proofread, checked, and re-edited, right? And so treat everything like that. Everything needs 2 sets of eyes.
Absolutely.
And if you have that, and you have that hierarchy of accountability, I imagine marketer A creates that campaign. Marketer B is like either going to say, oh no, let's not do that, or they'll approve it. And now we realize, okay, we don't have a marketing issue. We have a mission issue, because they don't understand the mission of the church, how that interacts, or what that looks like in execution. And it's the same thing, you can have a pastor have a revelation that needs to be sat on, meditated on. And if he just blurts it out, there should be an elder that comes alongside and says, we might need to revisit that. And maybe the pastor's right, but it doesn't mean he rules with an iron fist. There is accountability there. There should be accountability for everything. Even in business, you and I know you need a visionary and an integrator.
Absolutely.
Because it really, one is the most dangerous number when it comes to your walk with Christ, as well as business, as well as in ministry. So the number one thing to avoid a mistake is don't do anything alone. Don't do anything by yourself. Even a pastor, the coolest pastor, I don't want to say the coolest, like, I don't want to say the coolest, like the most swaggy. Oh, he's got the Gucci belt. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the coolest, like the pastors that resonated with the most people, that understood the heart of the people, and that could really preach in a way that made you feel understood. So then you felt in a way that Jesus understood you, and you knew what to take a next step. Those pastors while they may have sermon prepped solo, they shared their outline with other elders.
Absolutely.
They would run through their notes maybe the Thursday before with the XP or an associate pastor or the youth pastor. They even in their sermon prep were not doing it alone. And
No.
the same thing with marketing. Don't do it alone. Get second eyes on it. Get someone to brainstorm with.
Yeah.
Put together a creative team if you want, and don't get 7 people on a team. Nah, don't worry about that. Just 2 or 3 people. That's fine. And that way you have some accountability for what you're doing to where someone can say that might not be ethical, or let's get a third set of eyes on that, right? Even Matthew 18, right? Go to your brother, go to your sister.
That's right.
If that doesn't work, bring in a third person.
That's
Then
right.
bring in the pastor. Then
right.
bring in the church, right? Like you're going to escalate it naturally when there's disagreement. Well, if there's something possibly unethical that you find, I mean, hey, you and I both know pastors get in trouble when things go solo. So
Absolutely.
that's true for any church leader or any Christian on a walk. So that's the number one thing to avoid mistakes. The number two thing is, brother, sister who's watching or listening to this podcast, you're doing it right now. Stay up to date. Stay aware of what's happening. Just the fact that you know this technology exists and can be used against you. I don't know of what Pastor asked me yesterday. I don't know of a way to see if you're being geofenced or geo-targeted. Because even if you were, Facebook's not going to show the ad to the pastor. You ain't going anywhere. That place pays your money. Yeah. So they're not going to show you the ad. So you're not going to see it. But, just be aware of what's going on and stay up to date on what's happening. Even if you don't execute on it, know what to do. And the third thing really is exactly what this pastor did. I think more churches need to do. And it breaks my heart that this doesn't happen, is be cooperative with other churches. The fact that this pastor could take a meeting with that church planning pastor.
Yeah.
And I know I've called churches and I'm like, hey, we're doing a block party. We'd love to invite the people in your neighborhood that you have the email list for, the mailing list for. We want to invite them, and they don't ever call this number again and hang up because they don't want to work with us at all. A tornado came in, and a church was opened up their gym to collect food, to collect shoes and socks. The number of kids that don't have shoes when a tornado comes through is just heartbreaking as well. Like, just think about that. If a tornado comes, donate canned goods, peanut butter, and all that stuff, but also go to Payless, get some shoes for these kids. Cause I mean, it's heartbreaking. The number of kids who only have one pair of shoes and they get ruined because they got to walk through floodwater. Anyways, this church was calling churches in the area and say, hey, our gym is open. We're on a hill, so we're not flooded. The tornado didn't hit us as bad. So let your people know they can bring food to us. And the church is like, well, we can do that ourselves. Why would we bring it to you and hang up? That's wrong, right? In the New Testament, churches were supporting other churches, right? Paul, he went, I don't remember where, but he went to Jerusalem with someone's money to give money to that church. So another way to avoid mistakes is to just be cooperative with other churches. Formulate way back when we had a church media group of local church media guys and church IT guys, and we would meet at Chipotle every other month.
That's dope.
Just talk about what's working in our churches.
Yeah.
Because again, every church is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. None of us are in competition with one another. And if we are in competition with one another, this is where I'll be the second set of eyes and say, you need to change that mindset.
That's right.
Because it's all one kingdom.
That's right.
If God's calling someone away from the church to go serve in another local body, they're going to find you. You don't have to be on the offense for that. I think we need to be more offensive. Play more offense as Christians, not be more offensive, but be more on offense as Christians. That's something God's really kind of working on me this year. I've been too much of a defensive, timid man. I need to step up a little bit. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we need to go seek these out to steal them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If a sheep needs a new shepherd, God's going to guide that sheep, and they'll find you.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I've been glad to be a part of a church where the pastor said, this person they're not a culture fit for us. I want to serve them, but they can't. It's like they speak a different language. Yeah. But there is another church that has a strong young adults ministry. So let's do lunch. I'm going to introduce you to this pastor. I'll pay for lunch. And it's like a shepherd handing off a sheep, right?
Yeah,
and this person got to be served way better in that church than our traditional old head church.
No doubt. Man, you dropped so many nuggets. And before we get out of here, and if y'all want to hear about website stuff, put it in the chat below. We'll definitely come back and cover that again, because we each have a cutoff that we need to attend to. But I want to cover some final thoughts of what you said. I think this will be helpful for somebody, because he just laid out a beautiful plan. And the plan has to do with Christ, cooperation, and collaboration. These three words stood out as you were talking: Christ, cooperation, collaboration, right? So at the top of my page, I have three words mentioned. One is mission, one is marketing, one is ministry. Under mission, there is cost per visit or cost per member. That's a mission issue to me because the focus and the end goal is for people to visit. Then we add the marketing, and you can put these in whatever order you want to do. That's fine. You add the marketing because marketing gives you targeted and gives you voice, right? Gives you target, gives you voice. And then the last thing is ministry because that's going to bring a message, and the message is to have to produce victory and connection to a church. So if you're thinking about those things as your marketing strategy, this will get you started today. You don't even have to, you can think about this, you can pray about it, but you have something to get you started. But it's going to take Christ, cooperation, and collaboration to kind of move forward. Now, the last thing that's missing off of these 9 words I just said is money. You're going to need some finances outside of Google Ads. You can get that for free, but somebody got to work it for you. So again, you still going to need some money for that. So the marketing aspect does require for us to steward it well and resource it well. And so if you consider those things I just mentioned, I'm almost certain geofencing will be the least of your problems because you're going to be marketing, you're going to be evangelizing, you're going to be outreaching at the highest capacity. So I want to offer that as Justin has offered. Justin, I appreciate you, brother, for coming on with us today. Go ahead.
You got it. You had that written down. You had the 3 C's written down. You had that written down before we met today,
I
right?
did not.
You didn't pull that from what I said.
Yes, I did.
If that's not a testimony to what can happen again, it's not going to happen in one person. It's got to take multiple people, to do that and avoid those things. And of course, we're not done here. We're going to take that and put something together, put a training together.
Come on, man.
Put a process together, put a framework together.
Come on, brother.
So you don't got to remember it. You don't got to do it all on your own. We're here to support churches. Absolutely. Whether you work with us or you take that framework and do it on your own.
It doesn't
go buy a Tidely website and put it together and run ads to that and use the Tidely church management system to figure out how much it costs to get a person. Which, by the way, money is just another tool. Anytime you get nervous to talk about money, to me, and this is something I wasn't always this way. That's like getting embarrassed talking about how many chairs you have as a church. Don't get embarrassed. You're not embarrassed. Oh, and we got 200 chairs. We got another 50 in the closet that we can pull out if we need more. Money is a resource. It ain't ours anyways.
That's right.
The chairs are there for God's glory. The mics are there for God's glory. The lights are there for God's glory. Your money is there for God's glory. And to say it's something evil to talk about, or we shouldn't talk about that. No, it's another tool. Don't be embarrassed about how many chairs you have. Nobody's like, hey, how many mics you turn? Oh man. Yeah, we might have 1 or 2 mics. I don't know. I might be able to get a third mic. We can get someone to donate a third. Nah, dude, it is what it is. The moment we can stop giving that much power to money and give that power back to God,
come on, brother,
that money goes so much further. And it becomes so much easier to say, hey, we got 15 grand. We can buy a carpet for 70 people, or we can buy marketing for 70,000 people. And we know that with 15 grand, even on the worst day, if we spend $500, we're going to get 30 families joining the church.
Wow.
On the worst numbers that we have available. So 30 families, bringing it up to 100, new carpet. I mean, again, that's maybe you need new carpet. That's maybe for you to decide.
Maybe that carpet is old and mildewed and you do need some new carpet.
Maybe you meet me halfway. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Let's take the market out. Let's do a slab. We'll lacquer it real nice, and that'll give us 7,500. So we still get 15 families, and we can serve the 70 we have. These are the kind of things. If you know your numbers, you can do ministry so much more effective and be more steward. And instead of having half the people mad that you got new carpet, or half the people mad that you're not being evangelistic, hey, now everyone can be happy. We got new flooring and we got new families. Let's go.
Absolutely. Listen, y'all, thank y'all for supporting, listening, watching us on social media, church. Justin, thank you for those final thoughts, brother. And hey, please, Justin, tell the people where they can follow you if they want to get in contact with you?
You can find me everywhere at the Justin Nava. That's my handle on pretty much all the website platforms. The Justin Nava. Best way to kind of get in touch is actually go to navachurchwebsite.com. Download that framework that DK we talked about earlier
Absolutely.
today. Then you're going to get on my email list, and all of those email replies go directly to me. I don't jump on Facebook very often. I don't jump on YouTube very often except to live stream. I don't check comments or DMs, but I do live in my inbox. So that's the best way to get a hold of me if you have any questions or anything.
Absolutely, brother. And please, 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 you guys make sure y'all follow them if y'all hadn't followed them yet. We also thank our sponsors who are sponsoring our podcast. We appreciate, love you, and thank you. And please continue to watch us at SMC. We love you. Peace.